Hi, fellow Church of God pastors and leaders. My name is Angela Sages, and I am the new pastor at Bridge Community Church in Federalsburg, Maryland. You may have known this church as First Church of God, and you may have heard that there have been some changes. I would like to share what God is doing. My family and I moved to Federalsburg at the end of January. We specifically relocated here to put to death First Church of God, to restart or resurrect what is now Bridge Community Church. And while I'm new to the CDP and have never lived in this part of the country before, I'm not new to the Church of God. My dad is a Church of God pastor serving his home ministry in Ohio. I served as a youth pastor for 13 years in both Ohio and Indiana. I met my husband, Will, at the Anderson University School of Theology. He was ordained in Indiana before we moved to Rhode Island in 2010 to serve in a multicultural ministry there for nearly 14 years. We began to feel like we had done as much in Rhode Island as we could do there. And then we received this email from this little church in Federalsburg, Maryland. It was obvious that the church had a good history of doing community outreach. The email also shared how there's a large Haitian community here in this area. It also spoke of their desire to be a multicultural ministry and to reach a diverse community. So my husband, who's from Haiti, and we looked at each other and said, well, if any couple might be uniquely gifted for an area like this, it could just well be us. So that email turned into some conversations and then a candidating weekend, and yet it became real obvious that when we came down here to candidate that there was much, much more to be done to get the church in a healthy state than for them just to get another pastor. And I didn't know if I was the one to do all that. I wasn't looking to restart or to plant a church. I have never thought of myself as a church planter. And that's where Pastor Dan Turner came in. We had already been in conversation months before about churches in New England that might need a restart. Little did I know where that conversation would lead. So we prayed, lots and lots of praying. And we asked God to open doors or shut them. And he started to open them one at a time. And we walked through each open door. And we didn't know what we were getting into, and we're still trying to figure it out. There have been lots of times when we thought, how did we even get here? We didn't know much at all about this area until we were here, and then we found out the real deal. We found out that there's a great deal of poverty here. We found out that this is an area where substance abuse and addiction is very high. It's an area where transportation is an issue and where opportunities are few for people who do desire to get out of poverty. It would be easy to get discouraged as we look at all the problems, and yet there's also great potential. We banded together with other churches that are working together to collaborate to reach middle school and high school families and students. We have determined that we need to work together to build his kingdom rather than trying to build our own individual church kingdoms. And the schools are open to churches being involved. Social service agencies have welcomed me into partnerships. Our local town government has welcomed us in partnership. Every door that I have knocked on to talk to community leaders and to talk about the church has been opened. It's really been amazing. And plus we have a remnant of people who are most definitely, they want and desire to be a different kind of church, the kind of church that can reach people that have been hurt in the church, and the kind of church that's willing to do whatever it takes to reach the younger generations who have left the church by the millions. And we desire to reflect the rich diversity in our community. Segregation is a real problem in God's church and in our town. In fact, in this little town, there's an actual bridge that spans a river. And one side of the bridge is more racially diverse, and the other side looks a bit more like me. One side is more impoverished than the other. And that's why we determined to call our church Bridge Community Church, because we want to bridge, to be a bridge to hope, freedom, and purpose in Jesus. That's our mission statement. We want to be a bridge to bring people together through Jesus. And we want to be a church in the community and for the community by meeting the needs of the community. We want to be unified by focusing on how to have healthy relationships. So we launch on October 20th, and I am excitedly terrified. There's still so much to do and so much to work out, and I am not able. I'm not creative enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not gifted enough. I still don't see myself as a church planter. But God has a different idea, which I still think he's crazy to have, and he is more than able. He can take our tiny faith and our tiny abilities and our tiny lives when surrendered to him and do something. And this is where you come in, brothers and sisters. I want to ask if you will join us on this restart mission. First, we need prayer partners. We need as many prayers as we can get. We have only been sustained through prayer. And I know that some of you are already familiar with the work here. I've had the honor to speak with some of you who serve in the CDP as elders, and some on the CDP serve on our Restart board for this church. I know you have been praying it up, so thank you very much. And the next way you can be involved in the Restart mission is through financial support. As you can imagine, there are many expenses to restarting a church, and I am so thankful for the CDP district being willing to financially support the Restart efforts here and putting in place benchmarks to help us grow through your support. If your church would like to add to that financial support, know that it will be used for things like community outreach, which we have done a lot and will continue to do. That will be the fabric of our church. Revamping our children's ministry area, repairing and renovating our Hearts and Hands Clothing Center. The list can go on and on. And then the final way, and the way that I'm most excited and yet also nervous to share, will take some more sacrifice and investment. I'm going to ask if you might be willing to send some Restart missionaries to our church for the first 3 months or so of our Restart. We have lots of gaps that need to be filled in serving. We are still a skeleton crew, even though God is blessing and is bringing more people. But we've gotten a lot done as a skeleton crew. But imagine what else could be done with an infusion of some additional folks. Our current gaps are in our Bridge Kids, our children's ministry, our tech and our media, worship ministry, and secretarial and administrative work, as well as others. We also just need people to fill seats to keep the momentum going. For people to join us on that launch date would be huge, and for people who would be able to sacrifice and come beyond once a month, twice a month, every week would be incredible. Are there people in your congregation who might just be willing to attend and possibly serve with us for a time? I know as a pastor how in the church, how it is to feel that pinch of having more ministry positions to fill than having those consistent, faithful volunteers to fill them. And I also know we're across the bridge on the eastern shores, and most of your churches and people live an hour plus from us. But it would definitely be a sacrifice in many ways. This truly would be to serve as a 3-month Restart missionary. So I'm just asking through this introduction that you would pray about all these things and think about them, discuss them, and see what God might draw you and those in your congregation to do. We know this full well that God will do the drawing as we do the praying and the surrendering. We're praying for his drawing and for a move of God through our little town and beyond. Thank you for being part of that journey and for praying for this Restart mission. I look forward to meeting each of you in person in a week or so at our General Assembly meeting. May God richly bless you.